Great to have you. Yeah, we recently entered into a strategic partnership with Growth Advisors International Network, otherwise known as GAIN. And then there's a shared vision of accelerating technology adoption, innovation, education, and operational transformation across our region's hospitality and tourism sector. Through this partnership, our members will benefit from a bi-monthly webinar focused on key topics like AI in hospitality, revenue recognition, revenue optimization, guest journey tech, sustainability, and cybersecurity. We are also going to be benefiting from a couple of complementary sessions through GAIN, which includes 4 one-hour consultations each quarter to help businesses with digital strategy, system selection, and innovation planning. One of the chief benefits of having this partnership with GAIN is they are one of our platinum partners, and they support our events through their insights and expanding the CHTA's connectivity to our technology vendors. We also benefit from having access to curated vendor solutions through preferred models negotiated for CHTA members. In addition, the Technology Task Force has been advancing other valuable resources, including our recently released 2nd edition of the AI Guidebook, which provides some timely insights and recommendations on how to apply artificial intelligence across hospitality business and operations. Today's session marks the first step in rolling out some of these resources, and we're quite excited to showcase how we can help the Caribbean hoteliers to build a resilient, future-ready business. So joining us today to lead our presentation is Mr. Adam Mogalonsky. Adam is the lead advisor at Growth Advisor International Network, otherwise known as GAIN, where he focuses on strategic advisory for independent hotels, small groups, and new developments in the areas of financial planning, technology, wellness, direct bookings, and also focusing on the guest experience. So thank you for joining us today, Adam. We're looking forward to a very lively discussion, a very engaging discussion. We have reserved about 15 minutes at the end of this webinar for question and answers. And at this time, I just want to say welcome again and over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. So of course, the irony of all this is we're having a technology webinar, and the technology was not working to start off with. Took me, along with Madeline, Vanessa, and Fitzroy, around 15 minutes to figure out how to actually get me into the webinar. And this goes to show you that with technology, anything that can break will break at the worst possible time. I think that's Murphy's Law, but it's a very important issue to discuss this because the whole thing with hotels is we are dealing with live products. There are people checking in at all times or trying to book with us at all times. So it's very important that we have a strong technology architecture, a tech stack of how our technologies are built on top of one another, and that they are literally working 24/7 to help us serve our guests and to get our revenue on the books. So the next step here is for me to share screen. Hopefully this works. And I'll go straight into PowerPoint. And then from there, let's just get underway. So Fitzroy, thumbs up. You can see me here. Okay, awesome. So this is what we're covering. We're covering the digital transformation. And we talk about it as a transformation because there's so much out there that can be done to improve systems, and it is a full transformation, a transition to a better way of operating and really helping hotels be all they can be. So just quickly what we're going to cover, and we are starting a little bit late, so if there are any questions, I'm willing to go over or you can email them to somebody at CHTA to forward them to myself or other members of the GAIN team to answer, or just ping me direct on LinkedIn or email me. So we're going to discover what the partnership is, what the challenges are, how to look at how to approach artificial intelligence and the vastness that's out there, then some tips for navigating this transition, and then finally going into where we stand with Gain and looking ahead to Chief in November. But first, we really have to talk about the why behind technology. And the main thing that we have to look at is what's the benefit? What is the return on investment from really getting into technology and really putting in that effort to evaluate solutions, deploy them, stabilize them, and then maintain them on an ongoing basis? And the two things I want you to think about here are, number one is flow through, which is the amount of efficiency that you can do to drive more gross operating profit. That can be done by increasing the top line through various methods or deriving more from that top line into the bottom line, the GOP. And some ways to do that are finding better systems that are more efficient on an ongoing subscription or software as a service model. We're looking also very prominently at the channel shift, which is finding ways to move away from high cost channels like the OTAs that charge large commissions to ones that are lower cost, like direct bookings or other various partners that can feed into direct, where you're reducing the acquisition costs to thereby increase the net revenues. And that's really what technology can help with on a distribution basis, as well as improving the UX, the user experience on the direct channel to thereby motivate people to prefer booking direct versus an OTA. Finally, related to that is identifying the best guests. We'll get into that a little bit later. And then, of course, a very important hidden factor, an intrinsic factor in all this that's less measurable, is saving your team time and energy. And that's a very important thing to think about, because with hospitality, we have a lot of teams, and our teams are our best part of this industry. And really, what we want with technology is we want it to all be connected. We want it to work for us, and we want it to help us in various ways. So we have more time to work together to solve other issues and to really evolve our product to be better for the guests. And then this brings us to point number two, which is how our products are going to work with our guests over a long period of time, not just from the new customer acquisition side of things, but really how we're going to work to develop lifelong relationships with our guests so they want to come back with us time and again over many decades to come. And this is summarized in the single metric called CLV, customer lifetime value. There's obviously a lot of different calculations around that, but what we're moving towards to come at with accurate CLV calculations to really gauge how to grow long-term relationships with our guests is this whole idea of centralized guest profiles, often now abbreviated as CGPs. And that requires a lot of data integrations as well as accurate data integrations, which is another important part. And then from there, once we have a lot of data on our guests, we then can properly segment to really discern, this person is an eco-adventurer. Oh, this person is a spa goer. Oh, this person is a golfer. Oh, this person really is a foodie and loves food, but really only dines at night. And from there, you can not only use those micro segments or those segments to really derive personalized offers, personalized packages, and continue that relationship at scale. But then from there, you can use that to inform how to evolve your product from a OpEx and CapEx point of view, noting things like, people really like this restaurant at this hour, therefore we're going to really value engineer or engineer the menu at this point. or people are really preferring these types of spa treatments. So we're going to try to enrich the spa menu at that point. There's really is a ton you can do. Never forget the why behind the digital transformation. So again, I talk about the team's time, and this is really where we can devote or redirect our team's time to really improve the product and really deepen the relationship that we have through improving the various operations that we have. So point number one, we've covered that. Point number two, with more technology and more real-time integrations technology, you can be more guest-facing. You can stand away from the front desk and move in front with a tablet, and you can have a single host who can greet a guest at the front and then take them straight to their rooms and show them around the rooms and show them all the amazing things that are there and then walk them around the property. And that is such an incredible way to form a great first impression for somebody coming on site, as enabled by technology at scale. From there, business processes, less manual labor, faster ways to meet and to have better data for better reporting, better insights. As well, training, we all know that training is a very resource intensive operation by its own right. So having more bite-sized training, more bespoke training specific to what people need on an ongoing basis, all that can be enabled by technology. And this fifth point is more about the why behind your resort. And this is sort of saying, well, once we have all of our technology needs in hand and we have all this extra time, what can we do to enrich our product to really derive points of meaning with guests, to really make those meaningful stays so they really want to come back time and again with us and really to enrich their lives, and the resort visit or the hotel visit becomes a meaningful part of their lives and for them to transform as individuals, not just from the digital side. And I raised 3 points here: cultural stewardship, which is advancing the cultural traditions of Caribbean hotels and individual islands and regionalities. And these are all things that you can really deepen and fully express once you have your technology working for you. Culinary, you can really deepen those culinary experiences and by reorienting supply chains or really getting to know your guests and what they want from a culinary perspective. And then, of course, conservation and sustainability, which is a very important issue. But the key point here is if you're too busy dealing with technology and cross-referencing systems, you may not have time for proper ESG reporting or really looking deeper into conservation efforts like marine or coral restoration or forest rewilding, all those amazing things that we need to have for environmental resilience. So now moving on to talk a little bit about GAIN. GAIN, we provide strategic advisory services for hotels and also for technology companies. And really, we are at the cusp of what is there, what is the best practices, who are the best vendors, and we are here specifically to help hotels advance their organizational needs and their business growth through access to the best possible technology that is out there. We like to use the term that we are visionaries, but really we provide the vision as well as the on-ground support in the following areas that are expressed here. Some of our current clients, to give you a sense of the scale and the global scope that we are acting on, where we do work with large-scale multinational hotels and hotel associations, as well as global vendors and more bespoke vendors as well that are looking to be more single point solutions or sit on top of your core commercial systems. And then as well, we also part of how we have our ears to the street, as we say, is we are actively involved with events around the world. We are helping with Chief, which we'll get to at the end, and we work with various publications around the world, so that way we do have access to the best possible vendors, and then we're able to relay that forward to hotels to help them grow their businesses. Just looking ahead, some of the key events where we have many different of our advisors from our global network who are attending. We have Chief on there, but also if you happen to be planning to look at any of these shows that we've listed here, please reach out and we will set up meetings and get you access to events so you can also as well network with some of the vendors to learn what's out there. And as it relates to the Caribbean, we have three friendly faces up here. The guy on the left, I don't know about him, but the other two gentlemen here, Carlos Lugo and Michael Cohen, they are fantastic gentlemen. I really hope that you all get a chance to meet both of them, as well as others at Gain, and have a chance to reach out to them to learn about some of the tech solutions that are out there and how they can advance your organizational needs. So now let's get into the current challenges of technology. And if you're familiar with this, there are many of them that we need to tackle. So when we're looking at the tech architecture of a hotel, because of the nature of hospitality, where we have not only managers as well as transient staff members, as well as guests, as well as people coming on site, we require a lot of different systems. And that creates a lot of various endpoints that need to be accessed, but it's a lot of different data. And this data can often be siloed within these single task solutions. And the data may not have the ability to properly and fully cross over into a centralized system. And when we're looking at a hotel tech stack, just to give you a sense of it without it being mapped out, we're talking about, generally speaking, a minimum of 40 systems, and some hotels have 120 different systems to manage various operations. So that can be a lot of different silos, a lot of different things that are not fully connected, that aren't fully speaking to one another, that have to be maintained by IT professionals. You have security patches for all those softwares. It is a full-time job to manage. And within that, point number two is managing those 40 to 120 systems. That can come with a high cost. And we really need to be cost conscious because those costs can run out of, they can get out of control. And we really have to maintain lean operations. So we need to look for better solutions that are cheaper, have better integrations, and can do more tasks than just one specific one. And this is what's called the argument between best in breed and all-in-one. And we are looking for trying to get as many all-in-one solutions as possible, not necessarily single task solutions. From there, number three, I mentioned security patches, but one thing to note is that on the dark web, the web that hackers use, there are security vulnerabilities from software that are posted on a weekly basis, and there are thousands of them that are posted on a weekly basis. Security risks are very real. They have to be taken seriously. You need your IT team, you need their time to be available to constantly monitor these vulnerabilities and update or patch software solutions, or at least to properly audit your security your software vendors to make sure that they are properly patching their software. And then this brings us to point number four, which is that one of the difficulties with hospitality is that we would love all our systems to just be on the cloud, access via the internet, and then just available, and then the vendors update them. They patch them on their own, and then you log on. You don't have to worry about that. But because of hospitality, where we have on-site inventory, we have restaurants, we have other points of sale like spa, and then we also have rooms, we require on-premises systems. And this creates complexity in our tech stacks because we need on-prem systems that then need to interact with cloud-based systems. And this adds to the complexities. It also adds to the security vulnerabilities insofar as unauthorized users trying to gain access to your system via the on-prem systems in various ways that are beyond scope now, but we can get into those later on. Another challenge that we face is this whole idea of compliance and data residency. Data residency is where your data physically resides. So I mentioned this term cloud, but really the cloud, if we look at it on a physical level, all the cloud is a bunch of massive data centers that are filled with servers and hard drives distributed around the world. And you need to make sure that the servers in those data centers where your data is physically stored is in a place that is compliant with your local territory, your country, or if you're trying to comply with something like GDPR, it may need to be referenced over into a European data center. So there is complexities there, and this can also be fragmented because your vendors may be storing the data in different territories, and you need to ask them about where they're storing and if they are compliant with your local area. And then, of course, number 6 is the implementation of new tools. We have to select the best tools that are out there, but oftentimes those best tools may not have a good quality interface with your existing tools. So in order to implement those new tools, we need to reevaluate other tools. And what seems like something simple can rapidly become something more complicated. So I mentioned about the siloed data, and there are other problems with siloed data aside from it simply sitting in something and then it just sits there and it doesn't move over to something like a centralized guest platform or into your CRM or even into your PMS, your property management system. And this is the time. And there's two terms here in point number 1A, context switching or dashboard fatigue. And this is where you have disconnected systems, so much so that the average manager may have 10 to 20 different browsers or windows open, and they're constantly flipping their eyes back and forth between one to another. And that causes physical strain on the eyes, and then that can lower morale. And just to throw a stat at you, the average person during the workday, they can flip Windows within their computer 650 times or more per day. So just think about that strain on your eyes. And then think about this whole idea of removing that strain by having more all-in-one systems to thereby reduce that eye strain, reduce that time spent cross-referencing between different windows, different platforms, different systems, and then how that can liberate people to think more clearly to free up their time. And then, of course, there's a risk with manual entry in terms of trying to manually move over data from one system to another. There's also inefficient energy management, which is to say that all these different systems, they're actually using more physical energy, particularly if they're the legacy systems. So you need to be conscious of that in terms of your ESG reporting. And then, of course, going back to this customer lifetime value, we have the issue of guest segmentation, where if your data is siloed, then you're not going to be able to properly segment because you won't have the accuracy of data to properly segment to really know your guests. Therefore, you won't be able to personalize your marketing messaging, which makes your marketing more effective, whether to new guests or returning guests. And then as well, this slows down your sales response. So not just for marketing as it relates to the leisure transient segment, but now your sales and your group efforts, where the going statistic now says that the first 3 responders to an RFP win 90% of the group contracts. Therefore, if you are slow in your group sales response, if you're not in the top 3 to respond quickly, then you're missing out on a lot of lost groups and sales business. And that is a very important point that relates to having the technology that can speedily bring that information in, then return an accurate proposal to these RFPs, these requests for proposals, and then as well having the strong business processes enabled by automated technology underneath those to respond quickly. And then, of course, there's the issue of upselling for the last point here, where it's not just a matter of securing the bookings, but trying to maximize how much each guest is using your property. And a lot of times that comes down to simply making it more frictionless for guests to book those additional services, be that restaurant, spa, golf, purchasing retail items, making it very frictionless online, digitally for them to order or secure those bookings, but also approaching them in the right way and across the entire guest journey. So from packaging it on the website or how you're distributing those packages through to upselling, through to the pre-arrival stage, through to on-site, and then of course targeting them post-arrival for the next time they come. I'm throwing this up here just to try and give you an idea of those 40 to 120 systems that we have out there, and giving you some sense of the complexities that are involved here in making everything work between on-prem and cloud-based systems. And this is a very simplified model of how a technology system or a tech stack will look like. It is complicated, and I can't reduce the complexity because we have to show just what's involved when we try to implement new solutions and how diligent we have to be to ensure that all those various arrows here that are going between your core back of house systems into your commercialization systems, into the ones that interface directly with your guests, are all continue to work. And then that way we can proceed diligently to make sure we implement the best solutions and the best solutions that are forward looking to have better interfaces and be all in one. To call out two here that we'll get back to is the two big circles, the PMS and the CRM. And realistically, the PMS is the hub for your daily operations centered around your rooms and then everything related to your rooms. And then your CRM, your customer relationship management, that's really your system where you want to have your centralized guest profiles to thereby retarget guests and segment guests and find lookalike audiences and really know how you're going to commercialize your systems over a very long period of time. Okay, so now we have to look beyond tech to see what else is out there. And as you could see from that previous chart and all the issues I raised, we want tech to work for us, and yet it's challenging still at the exact time when we need it to be better for us. So on top of all that, we have additional problems that we're facing right now in 2025. To point number one, the tariffs have really disrupted the nature of travel, the flow of travel. I can't speak to individual islands, but it has severely disrupted a lot of other travel, both the airlift as well as the nature of how guests are traveling, how quickly they're booking for you to develop accurate pacing to then determine labor and inventory. So there is volatility. More long term, we do have labor issues, and that is both there's shortages for various reasons. People are less likely to enter hospitality now, but also there's generational conflicts where there are ways of operating between Gen X and millennials that are different from Gen Z and then soon Gen Alpha. And we have to be very conscious about how we bring teams together across different demographics. As well, guest expectations are constantly evolving. People are becoming more demanding for personalized service. They want a more intensive or more bespoke wellness experiences. They want people to remember their food preferences or allergies or food tolerances. And this is a constantly mounting battle, and therefore we need our technology to work at scale to help stay pace with guest expectations. So I've mentioned wellness. Wellness, we have a lot of new various touch points we can deploy, but wellness is a very expensive operation, not just from a labor standpoint for people giving out massages or facials or other treatments, but also all the new technologies that either involve a very expensive capital expenditure or ongoing subscription fees, but also the servicing of those machines, which can take time for smaller regions. And then putting that all together is we have a lot of increasing operational expenses. It is only going up. Therefore, we need to derive efficiencies and automations every which way we can just to keep pace with everything that's happening in the industry. So now let's jump ahead and look at artificial intelligence a little more. So where is AI today? Where is artificial intelligence? So it's all based on something called machine learning, ML, which is the ability for algorithms to look at big databases and then derive patterns from those relational patterns from those big databases that humans may not be otherwise able to find on their own. And then from there, concurrently, CRMs are now building a layer underneath them called customer data platforms. And what these are is using a combination of traditional interfaces as well as various types of artificial intelligence to better bring data into the CRM and structure that data around guest profiles so that way you can better know your guests. And that is a very important evolution in hospitality because the CDPs allow for a lot more ingestion of data and a lot more structuring of data so that way you can know more about your guests and then act upon that data. From there, you may have heard this, but it deserves repeating, is from these very, very large databases like the entirety of Google searches or all of every single post on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, the large providers have developed very complex algorithms that are essentially just complex machine learning that are called large language models. And what these models essentially do is they're designed to feed back very accurate answers based on human delivered questions. And this deserves constant repeating because you may have used things like ChatGPT, which is point number 4, a generative pre-trained transformer, or things like Claude, Anthropic, or Grok. And what GPTs are is essentially they're using large language models and then they're training them through billions of different parameters to deliver a product to you that is reasonably accurate in terms of generating results. And then from there, getting back to hospitality, we've had AI for a long time in various systems like revenue management systems. But a lot of times we never really talked about them in the framework of artificial intelligence that we are talking about them today. They're simply embedded tools. And that's really what's happening now is the vendors that you're going to recruit, the ones that are on the cusp, they are constantly testing new AI features and they're slowly rolling them out. Once they are secure, once they are accurate, they are embedding them as automation tools within their existing systems. And they're doing so iteratively and often quietly on a one-to-one basis before they announce some big upgrade. But just know that these tools, based on LLMs or machine learning or other different types of artificial intelligence, they're constantly being rolled out. It's a matter of asking the best vendors what they're doing and what's next in their roadmap for being rolled out and what they currently have. So one other important point that's come out of the GPTs that we're using, if you look at things like Gemini, which is what's embedded in Google search, is this whole idea of zero-click search. So pre-GPTs, pre-Chat GPT, the way you searched on Google was you typed in something like best resorts in the Caribbean. And then from there, you had your search engine results page, which had ads at the top and then organic items below that were structured according to search engine optimization, SEO. And then you clicked a link to find out more. Now, things like Gemini or other GPTs are generating responses for you based on your question or your search, and they're loading that as text right at the top. So you can get a very general answer without having to click further down into a link. So you have a zero-click answer to what you've searched. And this is very important because the GPTs that are generating the results of zero-click search are using different information, they're weighing the information differently than how traditional SEO did. So from there, we have two new terms, which is AI optimization for zero-click search, and then as well, share of answer, SOA, which is how much your information, your content is working towards that share of answer that the GPT generates. And then, of course, the metric that we're seeing from this is if you look from a marketing standpoint, you're getting more impressions because your information is being displayed more with zero-click search, but because people don't have to drill down to your page to get what they want at a glance, you're getting fewer overall clicks. So this is evolving how we use marketing and what we're measuring to actually determine where our guests are coming from and what they're looking at to drive direct bookings or that channel shift. Point number 3, AI bookings, they are happening where people are typing into various GPTs like ChatGPT, hey, I'm looking for a hotel in New York City. I'm looking for a boutique hotel. I want it to be in Midtown. I want it to have a rooftop bar. Just find it and book it within this price range. That is now happening. And there's a lot of technology under the hood that has to happen in order for your hotel to be front and center for these GPTs to then select your hotel and make that booking on behalf of guests. That is happening. That is a constantly evolving aspect on the forefront. And that is something that we continue to monitor and we're continuing to optimize for. But one thing we are finding is that a lot of the traditional SEO tactics that you may be currently engaged in, those are still very important and things that need to be audited on a continual basis for driving direct bookings to lower customer acquisition costs. Okay, where are we heading with AI? I mentioned AI bookings, and we have some new terms that are coming up. So a model context protocol is, or a direct agent-to-agent interface. These are how various LLMs, the large language models, or the GPTs talk to one another or talk to other systems that are using AI. They are, in essence, the APIs for AI. They can be very complicated, but you just need to know that they're out there, and that is going to be an increasingly important part of the hotel technology architecture. From there, we also have something called synthetic data, which is to say that systems now can, using your existing guest profiles, they can generate look-alike guests to then find different audiences in different by region, by demographics, by booking channels, to then really optimize and increase the amount of bookings that you're getting according to the goals and the strategy that you have. Now, from there, we have something called Agent Environment Operator or Awareness, AEO. And this is a more of advanced term right on the cusp, but basically saying that AI agents, they do one specific thing. They still need to have somebody to orchestrate where they're pulling their information from or how they're going to direct that information to the next bot or the next traditional system. And finally, where is this all going? it's going towards something called conversational commerce, which is to say, which is easier for you as the customer to do, to speak or to type? And if you look at it, it is always easier to speak. We can say more words per minute than we can type more words per minute. So the future of hotel bookings is going to be me or you looking at a screen or looking at your phone going, ChatGPT, I need a hotel. Here are my dates in New York City. I want a boutique hotel with a great restaurant because I'm having a client meeting. I want it between this price points. And here are my dates, and I want it in Midtown. Can you do that for me? And then can you also make me a restaurant reservation? And it's conversational. You're moving away from typing back to the good old days of speaking. But instead of speaking directly to a person, we're speaking to an AI to help us out, or an agent environment operator who then is orchestrating a bunch of different AIs for us. So really, when we're talking about all these various bots that are doing single tasks, and you think about all the various tasks that you have, what we're talking about is orchestration. And this is likened to a symphony conductor, where the whole point of a symphony conductor is to keep time and then to look at specific groups of instruments, be it the strings, the brass, the drums, and guide them to keep pace with one another and ensure that the entire operation is going on. So all the agentic orchestration layer is doing is simply guiding and knowing the context of what a certain request is from the guest or from another AI, and then guiding it to the other AI that is trained in that. So here is a model for what the future of a hotel tech stack looks like. And this is pure hypothesis. This is pure me and others dreaming about what it can be. It is not the reality, but we're really trying to simplify things. And if you look on the left here, essentially, if at a time we have all this agentic orchestration and all these trained bots in place that you can buy off the shelf from some provider and then train according to your specific goals and needs, we can then have our proprietary data. And from there, that data is structured or it isn't structured. It's scrubbed for credit card information or various other sensitivities. And then from there, that's put into an orchestration layer. And then we have all the various bots that connect into that orchestration to determine what task you need. And then how that interacts with the outside world is we're using interfaces or integrations for traditional systems, which we're labeling here as current systems. And then if we have our LLMs connected, we would use MCPs or agent-to-agent interfaces or other types of AI-driven interfaces that have not yet been fully developed. And then from there, that interacts with customers' data that's stored somewhere, and then the customer interacts with various conversational commerce endpoints like a website with a speech-to-text interface, or an OTA, or directly into a GPT to make that hotel booking. So this is where we want it to be. In reality, we're dealing iteratively, and we're dealing with a transition, and it is down very grueling to make this happen on a one-to-one basis. So again, this looks great, but let's be real. The agents that we want people to use to do those point-to-point tasks, the 350 different agents we want, that agentic workforce to help our managers, to help connect guests with specific requests, that is not yet available off the shelf or out of the box. It is happening. It is being trained. A lot of times those tools are being embedded by vendors, but it is not yet fully available. It will be there. I cannot say when, but it is coming, and that's why it's very important to stay up to date with all these trends. And as I mentioned, the implementation for moving from a traditional tech stack to this new proposed simplified model using artificial intelligence, it's going to be messy. It's going to be iterative to get there because we're dealing with live products. We can't exactly shut everything down and then build everything up from the scratch, nor do we have the resources, monetarily or time-based to do that. Point number three is very important, which is to say that agentic AI gets a lot of hype, but off the shelf or a lot of these tools, once you get them, they are very stupid to start off with. They are not very smart. They need a lot of training. They do make a lot of mistakes, often labeled as hallucinations. You need to really be on guard to train them fully and then give them very specific tasks in order to do that job well and 100% accurately. And even then, they still make mistakes. So we're getting there. It's a work in progress, but it will take time. And point number five is going back to security, where um, these model context protocols, they do expose a security risk for your business because a lot of times, as we've shown with things like ChatGPT or other LLMs, these endpoints can be tricked to reveal various types of information, and we need to train them to not reveal that information, um, such as just things like giving away your rate cards or your rate strategy, or even more sensitive things like cardholder data or when certain guests are staying in house. So this is all a work in progress, and in reality, it's going to look, or in the near future, something like the following. And I don't expect you to know everything, but just to overwhelm you for where it is headed, it looks something like this, where the green on top is our existing systems, where we're looking at dealing with all-in-one as much as possible, all strung up, and then using the data warehouse right in the center, or with direct connections, we're putting together an agentic workforce in blue where we are looking one-to-one at what tasks can we use artificial intelligence for that will deliver a very clear and present return on investment. And then let's train that artificial intelligence to do that specific task. And then let's find a way to connect it. So this is a lot here. I'm not expecting you to drill down to every single term. And there is way more than just these individual tasks that I've identified here. The point is that this is all iterative, and you have to look one-to-one with developing a business process around incorporating artificial intelligence tools, using them, training your team to use them, and then refining the use around various ways to better improve business processes or commercialize your products. And we can drill down offline into any individual one of these. I just want to show you that it's a matter of deploying these agents one-to-one, showing that you have them, how they're connected, and then building out your entire agentic workforce around that orchestration layer that's going to come. So I've mentioned before that AI is coming. Right now, from that previous chart, it's about assigning single task solutions. And then we have to look at what tasks we can do right now that are probably most lucrative and then easy to implement. And we can look at things like guest communication, giving quick supplies, or communicating quick replies, uh, or dealing with guest FAQ responses, repetitive answers, to thereby free up your time. As well, we can do what's called sentiment analysis, seeing what guests are emotionally connected to, and then that can help improve various types of guest service, type forms of communication, or even your product. Forecasting demand and rates. This is something that's been built into RMS, revenue management systems, for many years, and it will continue to improve for you to ask better questions from your guests. For example, which types of guests are more likely to book my villa products for a length of stay of 3 or 4 nights or more, because I'm really trying to drive longer length of stay or extended stay? That's a very granular question that you can now ask of systems to develop a different type of commercialization strategy to improve your overall business growth, looking to have more long-term stays and then round out your revenue per guest based on those long-term stays. Number three, or point number C here, I've already mentioned about the importance of responding quickly to RFPs, and AI can now help with that in terms of giving that quick response to an RFP based on certain rules and parameters that you train it on. Back of house, there's going to be a lot more involved with AI with regards to staff scheduling based on occupancy or different servicing needs, moving from preventative maintenance to predictive maintenance, and a whole lot more. As well, AI is becoming very important for energy management and systems that can inform your building property technologies to thereby save on total energy costs. And we're talking about reductions of anywhere from 20 to 40% conservatively of total energy costs. So that is a big area of improvement that AI, along with various different types of building access protocols can help to improve. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the use cases where the future holds for AI. Let's get into navigating this grand migration, and hopefully I haven't overwhelmed you thus far. So your first step is the guidebook that was put out by CHTA. You have to read it. It was excellently put together and constructed. I've read it cover to cover. Special shout out to Krista Skill, who I know put a lot of effort into this. It is a fantastic guidebook to read and really get familiarize yourself with the basics of artificial intelligence and some clear next steps that are relatively straightforward to implement and can really help you to get off the ground with AI. So that is a clear first step. Please reach out and read that. From there, if we're looking at overall, not just AI, but just future proofing, we are looking at some frameworks by which to diagnose what to do. And because we are dealing with a live product, we are performing open heart surgery, as we say, or fixing a car with the engine on. We have to assess what we have and what our clear and present pain points are. And then we have to tackle things one by one and identify what the biggest pain points are to thereby come up with the solutions that are going to have the most return on investment in the near term. From there, going back to the beginning, we have to identify legacy systems, ones that aren't keeping pace with the nature of modern integrations, and also security patches as well, which prevents risks to your tech stack from a security standpoint. We want to transition to more all-in-one platforms because that will reduce the context switching and dashboard fatigue. It will help to improve centralization of that data for better marketing and sales, and it will also potentially reduce costs overall of your technology. From there, what we do is we develop a roadmap saying, okay, these 2 months we're looking at this and just this, and we're going to implement it, stabilize it. Then we're going to move on to this. Then we're going to move on to this. We develop that roadmap in order to not overwhelm our teams and to make sure that everything that we do works well, and is fully in line with our commercialization strategy before we move on to the next item. And then from there, we also need to look for how we're going to change and the processes behind that and how we make decisions and how these tech tools can help us make faster decisions so we can keep pace with how quickly our guest behavior is changing as well as how quickly the world is changing. And then again, as highlighted in the guidebook that was put together, is we need to start small with AI. We like to talk about the big things like the agentic orchestration and that mind-boggling chart I put forward, but really we got to start small. Things like chatbots, things like voice bots, things like using ChatGPT to run analysis on and just plugging in. Start small. And then number 6 is you have to become AI literate. So all these terms, all these acronyms I mentioned, you can't learn them in a day. You have to be reading, you have to see them over and over again to really know what they're about and then to understand them intrinsically. So that way you know what solutions will work, what vendors are out there, who's there to help, and to help you navigate that transition and build that roadmap. So one last thing here about all-in-one versus best in breed, and a lot of times we're always looking for the best in breed to do everything with one system, but oftentimes that means we're choosing something. We get stuck to a system that doesn't have the best interfaces, and oftentimes we're missing the forest for the trees where we want some solution, but because it doesn't bring all that data all in one into one centralized guest profile or centralized storehouse, it means that we can't fully commercialize our hotel from a segmentation standpoint to then really maximize our revenue and our flow through to gross operating profits, and then as well our customer lifetime value. So we are really looking for all-in-one solutions. They're easier to maintain. They're easier to train our teams on. They reduce dashboard fatigue. They help to build more centralized data. From a security standpoint, they have SSO, single sign-on, with oftentimes with built-in 2FA, two-factor authorization, to help securitize your users. And then, of course, it's easier from a data residency standpoint, having that all compliant with your local territory. And then one last point is if you're dealing with all-in-one, you have one throat to choke, which means you have your dedicated account manager at that all-in-one vendor, and they are on your side to help you better use that technology and build those interfaces and really get the best use out of those systems. And that is what we call, or from a negotiating standpoint, is what's called buying powder. So here, when we're looking at the combination, the blend of all-in-one and best in breed, we're looking at having hubs and spokes. So we want our hubs to really be the PMS and the CRM. The PMS for daily operations, the hub for extending that loyalty, those return guests is the CRM. And that's really what to call back to the hubs and spokes, building around these all-in-one systems. So again, for data and looking ahead to AI, it's data really is the new oil. So don't let your data collect digital dust. Looking at the single task AI solutions that you can implement to develop the best possible return on investment. And then, of course, understanding again, those LLMs, they require a lot of training or else they will make mistakes. And then, of course, looking ahead to the leading edge vendors who are going to have those tools and have a strong roadmap for implementing AI. And then building in flows to your data lake or warehouse. That way you can work towards that hypothesized model of really owning your data and then having an orchestration layer with AI built on top of that to then really develop that next generation tech stack. And this is a summary of what a architecture would involve from a process standpoint for building out that data warehouse based architecture with AI and an orchestration layer to govern all those various bots that are trained. So you need those APIs to start off with. You're looking for those AI tools that are embedded, and then you're going to use independent tasks on GPTs or things like the GPT operator agents that are now available to be trained. And then from there, looking ahead to the future is the bottom part, task 4 to 6. You're going to have your orchestration layer. You're going to connect that orchestration layer to model context protocols or different types of AIs or application interfaces. And then from there, all that is going to be strung together to build out the orchestration on top of your proprietary data. This is all hypothesized, but it's something to keep in mind. And then, of course, to finally, I want to bring this back is what's the point of doing all this? What's the why behind this digital transformation and all these terms and all this data complexity? And we have to look at what we're doing, which is personalization at scale. The ability for technology to help us really improve the guest experience on an automated level. So that way we can replace what our teams have been doing and struggling to do on a 24/7 basis using technology to really improve that. So we can look at personalized offers, both by the type of guest as well as the time that we deliver those offers and really optimize for that. We can develop with AI or with automated tools, customized multi-day itineraries to maximize how much a guest is using our property, to make sure they have those great experiences, to make sure they're using our property, but also to maximize revenue per guest. More granularly, we can look at remembering guests' food preferences or other preferences so we know our guests. So that way, if somebody is allergic to shellfish, we're not giving them a shellfish meal. We already know that, and we can optimize the menu, and then they're impressed and they end up really trusting us to keep coming back. I've mentioned the marketing and segmentation, but really, I want you to think about marketing now on a 20 to 30 year life cycle, because that's really what we're looking at now is developing customers for life and developing marketing journeys that are really across the entire customer lifetime value, calculated at 20 to 30 years. And then from there, what does it look like to have guests coming back periodically over 20 to 30 years? And how do we develop different stays that are personalized and progress from stay to stay? It's amazing stuff what we can do. So just to end off a little bit more about Gain, we do offer services that relate to solving these complex issues and implementing AI. And it all comes down to assessments. And it starts off by helping you find your pain points, helping you really hone in on what's going to deliver the best ROI in the near term, and then mapping that roadmap. So we can help you assess from a total revenue perspective what will help you grow per guest revenues, or oftentimes it's ancillaries like F&B, spa. We can look at enacting that channel shift, helping you find out what's going to bring down your cost of acquisitions, migrating away from the OTAs or other high acquisition channels towards the direct channel. We can look at that emerging segment of wellness hotels and a lot of the wellness technologies I've mentioned. We can look specifically at AI applications, both for product commercialization as well as back of house efficiencies, and then develop roadmaps around the implementation of those. Finally, for group sales, we can look at what can really help you win those group contracts and win those sales efforts using AI or other automated tools. And of course, we're always focused on results and return on investment. A lot of these assessments, if you qualify, reach out to us. They are free to you to have these tech assessments. Please reach out to find out more. And of course, last point here is I will be down at Chief in November, along with Carlos and potentially other Gain advisors. So please reach out into the interim. We are going to be speaking and potentially panelists, and I really look forward to meeting you more in person. So thank you.
Thank you so very much, Adam. Excellent, excellent presentation. Definitely, we can see that AI is going to revolutionize the industry. We have three quick questions for you, and if you can be as succinct as possible, any further responses required. Of course, we can always do
Awesome.
an email to follow up. But the first question is, and you may have answered it already in your presentation, but the first question is, which parts of our tech stack are most likely to incorporate LLMs rather, and AI in the short and medium term? Will we see an AI-enabled PMS anytime soon?
Anytime soon in the PMS.
A two-part question.
Right. I can't say that for certain within the PMS. Where LLMs are becoming most applicable are what's called the GEMS, Guest Experience Management Systems,
Mhm.
which can have chatbot functionality. They can have voice bot functionality or AI voice assistants. They can have unified inboxes. Um, and then they can direct various endpoints out to the interactive TV solutions or the tablets, or to direct work orders into your service optimization systems, like Hot Sauce or Alice or No Cross, or FlexKeeping. Um, so the gems, a great one to look at is a system called Canary, which can integrate a unified inbox and then has different points where it can deliver standard responses to guests based on LLMs, to thereby so that way if you're a guest service manager and you're in charge, you're doing 20 different things, and then somebody says, "Hey, when's the pool open?" That from there is an LLM question. It can say, well, you're responding at 11 p.m. night. I'm sorry, the pool is closed. The pool opens back up tomorrow at 8 a.m. and it is open till 10 p.m. Simple things like that. So the GEMS is the most ready place where we're incorporating LLM technology. Um, Related to that, there are other points that are going to be putting in AI based, let's say, guest analysis. So the CRM is having AI-based tools to analyze more deeply about your guest profiles to know what can be done with guests and then develop that in a conversational manner where you can now ask a CRM saying, "Hey, I want to really identify guests who are wine lovers. What can you tell me about how best to market to them?"
Mhm.
And that would generate a solution. On top of that, the point of entry where the PMS LLM solution is going to come is in the analytics module that's built directly within the PMS. There are a few vendors that are doing this and working on this right now. So that will be more so about building a conversational reporting tool that's built on top of the analytics engine, which is a module within the PMS. So all the data that's going into the PMS, now instead of having to configure and run a various analytics report, now you can simply ask the analytics module saying, "Hey, I'm looking for to do a historical pace report for these room types for this data range. What can you tell me about these specific types, and then how does that compare year over year?" So it can
Okay.
really expedite the analytics point of view. And those are all near-term applications or here and ready right now.
Okay. Thank you, Adam. So the second part is what's the likelihood that we will see an AI-enabled PMS anytime soon?
An AI-enabled PMS, it always goes back to the Gartner hype cycle, which is to say that AI went through this big hype period, and there really was a lot of vaporware, a lot of AI tools that really weren't up to snuff around 2 years ago when ChatGPT was first dawned out. And now that the hype cycle is done, we're starting to see implemented tools that are coming in very, very quickly. Yeah, but oftentimes invisible, they're embedded and simply being talked about as ROI solutions or automated tools. So AI is slowly but surely being embedded into the PMS. In terms of a AI first PMS, uh, don't hold me to this, but I'd say 2028.
Okay.
Because we're dealing with live products, right? So even a technology vendor has to support all their existing hotels. They can't simply develop in Skunkwork a whole new system with all the existing features and then migrate everyone so they log in one day. It's like, oh, this is a whole new interface. Everything has to be built iteratively because a PMS has to work 24/7 in order to service guests that are in-house as well as guests that are hoping to book.
Okay. Thank you, Adam. We're going to try and wrap up for the next 5 minutes, so I'm going to
Okay.
ask you the other two questions as quickly as possible. Regarding training, I have seen this with chatbots in particular. Why are so many of the chatbots available? Why are so many chatbots available and there is not yet there's not yet as accurate as Gemini or ChatGPT?
I guess we're talking about vendors here. So if we're looking
Oh,
at,
there. Okay.
we're talking about chatbot vendors not
Yes,
being as accurate
chatbots.
as the major ones like Gemini. So number one is look at resources. Gemini is run by Google. Google is a $1 trillion company. They have thousands upon thousands of developers honing the responses to their algorithmic LLMs. So that's number one. Number two is the vendors that we're recruiting are dealing with a situation called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, which is to say that the LLM for Google is designed to give the best answer based on the destination. They are hotel agnostic and restaurant agnostic. The vendors are augmenting their retrieval based on what we want to serve the guest and also what we want to exclude from the guest. So if we just ported over an LLM from Google onto our chatbot, and then we ask the chatbot saying, "Hey, I'm coming to this hotel here. Here are my dates. What restaurants would you recommend?" And then the LLM would return and say, "Well, I recommend this fish place over here. Only that fish place happens to be 20 kilometers away from the hotel, and therefore you're losing money based upon that." A RAG, a retrieval augmented generation chatbot, can be trained to thereby say, well, first, we'd like to recommend our fish menu, our fish restaurant, or a restaurant in-house that has a strong fish menu here. It's open from these and these hours. Can I make a booking for you? Right? And so we're really lasering in on the information we want to give it, so that way not only is it serving our business interests, but also it's not doing a disservice to the guests by sending them somewhere that's off-site, potentially putting them into a dangerous situation, right? Because these LLMs can hallucinate when we're getting down to granular questions. And then as well, we can string that up to connect to our own systems to give very bespoke answers that an LLM that is not connected to our systems would not be able to give.
Great, thank you. And our final question is, what is the average cost to a hotel to move to an all-in-one solution, and how long does it take to ROI? That's the final question.
That's a tough question to answer without understanding some basic finances of the operation, and almost we can have a pre-NDA and a post-NDA answer to that question. If I would just say it depends on where we're migrating to all-in-one, but if we center around an all-in-one PMS, we would look at a 6-month transition to properly go through the RFI, the request for information process, the development in staging of that new PMS, and then the connection and testing of those new interfaces that need to occur, and then the migration of data, and then finally the changeover to occur. So a 6-month timeline, and the ROI. Believe it or not, the ROI from that investment, when we're counting in not only the finances of that investment, but also the time and how quickly you can realize improved operations, we're looking at a 3-month to 6-month ROI as well.
Okay.
When all is told, when everyone's fully trained and they're happy using the new system, the booking engine is fully connected, you realize more direct bookings. The data is structured, so you're starting to develop those bespoke, segmented marketing journeys to thereby really build out that loyalty. 3 to 6 months, it really can occur that quickly if we move fast.
Thank you so much, Adam. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our panelists, and thank you to our attendees. A very well put together, thought out presentation. A lot of knowledge was passed on today, Adam. We really
Uh,
appreciate you being here. We want to thank you and the rest of the GAIN team who's here, and we really enjoyed this experience.